Welcome, high-value men. Let's start with a powerful truth. Every woman, no matter how confident or independent she appears, has hidden vulnerabilities. These aren't weaknesses to exploit, they're insights that can help you build stronger, deeper connections. If you're curious to learn more, type 1 below. If you think you already know everything, type 0. And don't type the word 1, just hit the number key for simplicity. Now, let's be honest. Relationships aren't always straightforward. Misunderstandings, emotional disconnects, and unmet expectations happen. But most of these challenges stem from not understanding the underlying emotional needs that women have. This isn't about trying to change someone, it's about understanding her better, knowing how to navigate emotional complexities and building trust. Here's a question. Have you ever wondered why a woman might seem distant or overly emotional at times? Or why small misunderstandings can lead to bigger conflicts? The truth is, these reactions often come from deeply rooted feelings that most men don't recognize. By understanding these dynamics, you'll not only avoid common mistakes, but also elevate your ability to connect meaningfully. In this video, we're diving into 7 key insights about women, hidden emotional truths that most men overlook. These aren't surface-level observations. They're foundational truths that can transform how you approach relationships. Why is this important? Because when you understand these insights, you unlock the ability to create connections based on trust, empathy, and respect. These are the qualities that differentiate a high-value man from the rest. Stick around and I'll walk you through these concepts step by step. By the end, you'll have a clearer perspective on what drives emotional connection and how you can become the partner she truly values. So, are you ready? If you're committed to learning and growing, type 1 below and let's get started. Number 1. Emotional validation is her kryptonite. Let's start with the one thing that most men overlook: emotional validation. On the surface, women often appear strong, independent, and in control. But beneath that exterior lies a profound need to feel seen, heard, and emotionally understood. This isn't about agreeing with her every word or showering her with compliments. It's about making her feel like her emotions truly matter. Imagine this scenario. She comes home after a tough day at work. Her boss dismissed her ideas in a meeting, and she's feeling undervalued. She shares her frustration with you, and your first instinct is to say, "Don't worry, it's not a big deal, you'll get over it." But in her mind, those words dismiss her emotions and invalidate her experience. Instead, what if you said, "I can see why you'd feel that way. It's frustrating when your efforts aren't appreciated." Do you see the difference? The first response pushes her feelings aside, while the second acknowledges and validates them. When you validate her emotions, you're not just listening, you're showing that her feelings have value, that she has value. Why is this so important? Because emotional validation isn't something women often receive. Many people, even those close to her, brush off her concerns or label her as too emotional or overreacting. This creates a gap, a longing for someone who truly understands her emotional world. Here's the real power of emotional validation. It builds trust. When you actively listen and respond empathetically, you create a safe space for her to express herself. This safety deepens the connection, making her feel valued and understood. But let me be clear, emotional validation isn't about agreeing with everything she says or pretending to care when you don't. Women are incredibly perceptive, and insincerity can quickly erode the trust you're building. Genuine validation requires active listening, patience, and a willingness to set aside your own judgments. For example, let's say she's upset because her friends didn't invite her to an event. Your initial reaction might be to offer solutions like, "Why don't you just talk to them?" Or, "Maybe they forgot." But what she really needs is for you to acknowledge her feelings first. You could say, "That must have hurt. I know how important your friendships are to you." Once her emotions are validated, she'll be more open to discussing solutions. Here's the truth. Women aren't looking for someone to fix their problems. They're looking for someone to walk with them through their emotional experiences. When you can provide that, you become more than just a partner. You become a source of stability and understanding. If you've ever heard the phrase, "You just don't get it," it's likely because emotional validation was missing. This is your opportunity to change that narrative. By mastering this simple yet profound skill, you'll unlock a level of connection that most men never achieve. Take a moment to reflect. Have you been dismissing her emotions without realizing it? If so, it's time to shift your approach. Listen, acknowledge, and validate, and watch as your relationships transform. Let's move on to the next insight, where we'll explore the delicate balance between confidence and control. Number 2. She's drawn to confidence but fears control. Confidence is one of the most magnetic traits a man can have. It signals strength, security, and leadership, qualities that naturally attract women. But here's the catch. Confidence has a double edge. While it draws her in, it can also push her away if it starts to feel like control. Picture this. You're dating someone, and she tells you she's meeting a friend for dinner. Instead of respecting her plans, you suggest rearranging her schedule to fit your plans. To you, this might seem like a reasonable way to take the lead, but to her, it feels like you're dismissing her autonomy. That subtle shift from confidence to control can trigger defensiveness and even resentment. Why does this happen? Women are naturally wired to seek stability in a partner. Confidence provides that sense of security. It shows you can make decisions, handle challenges, and stand firm when needed. But the moment your confidence overshadows her independence, it sends the wrong message. It's no longer reassuring, it becomes intimidating. So what's the solution? Balance. True confidence isn't about dominating or always getting your way. It's about leading with respect, considering her perspective, and valuing her input. For example, let's say you're deciding where to go for dinner. Instead of waiting for her to choose or insisting on your favorite spot, you might say, "I know you've been craving sushi lately. How about we check out that new Japanese place downtown?" This approach shows leadership while still being thoughtful about her preferences. Another scenario. Imagine you're planning a weekend trip, and she hesitates about the destination. Instead of pushing your choice, you could say, "I've been thinking about that mountain resort. It seems like a relaxing escape. What do you think?" This small adjustment shifts the dynamic from control to collaboration, strengthening her trust in your ability to lead without overshadowing her voice. The fear of control stems from a deeper emotional need, the desire for independence. No one, regardless of gender, wants to feel like they're losing themselves in a relationship. When a woman feels her boundaries are respected, your confidence becomes a source of stability rather than a threat. But here's the nuance. Being confident doesn't mean being passive. If she senses hesitation or indecision, it can undermine her trust in you as a leader. Confidence is about finding that middle ground, being decisive without being overbearing, assertive without being dismissive. This balance creates a unique dynamic where she feels safe yet intrigued, supported yet free. It's this equilibrium that fosters trust and deepens attraction. Think about it. Have you ever unintentionally crossed the line from confidence to control? Maybe it was a small comment or a seemingly harmless suggestion. Reflect on those moments and consider how a shift in approach could have changed the outcome. When you strike the right balance, you become the man who stands firm in his values while still respecting hers. That's not just attractive, it's transformative. Number 3, the obsession with being understood. One of the most overlooked truths about women is their profound need to feel understood. It's not just a preference, it's a foundational part of their emotional well-being. When a woman feels truly understood, it creates a connection that's hard to break. But here's the challenge. Most men miss this entirely, either because they're not paying attention or they mistake understanding for agreeing. Let me ask you, have you ever been in a situation where she said, "You just don't get it," and it left you frustrated, wondering what she meant? If yes, type yes below. If no, type no. Be honest. This is a safe space to reflect. Understanding doesn't mean you have to agree with her every thought or emotion. It's about showing her that her perspective matters, even if it's different from yours. Imagine she's venting about a problem at work. Your instinct might be to offer a solution or brush it off as unimportant. But what she really wants is for you to acknowledge her experience. A simple response like, "That sounds frustrating. I can see why you'd feel that way," can make a world of difference. Why does this matter so much? Because in a world where women often feel dismissed or misunderstood, being the man who genuinely tries to get her sets you apart. It's not about being perfect or knowing all the answers. It's about listening, empathizing, and creating a space where she feels safe to open up. Here's an irony to consider. Sometimes the closer you are to her, the more likely you are to overlook this need. You might assume you already know her well enough, but relationships grow and evolve, and so do people. Taking the time to check in and truly listen deepens the bond and prevents small misunderstandings from escalating into bigger issues. Think of it this way: when she shares her dreams, fears, or even small details about her day, she's not just talking, she's inviting you into her world. If you dismiss or overlook these moments, it can create a silent disconnect that builds over time. But when you respond with patience and empathy, it strengthens her trust in you and the relationship as a whole. Here's a real-life example. She's excited about a project she's working on, but she's also nervous about whether it'll succeed. Instead of saying, "Don't worry, you'll be fine," you might say, "That sounds like a big challenge, but I know how capable you are. You've got this." This response validates her feelings while also building her confidence. Now let's circle back to my earlier question. Have you ever experienced a moment where she said you didn't understand her? If you answered yes, think about how you could have responded differently. And if you answered no, consider how you've managed to avoid this pitfall. Your insight might help others. Understanding is not about perfection, it's about presence. When you show her that you care enough to truly listen, you unlock a connection that words alone can't achieve. Number 4. Her guarded vulnerability. At first glance, women may seem emotionally open and expressive, but beneath that exterior lies a carefully guarded vulnerability. This is a side of her that she doesn't show easily. It's protected by layers of caution, built over years of navigating emotional pain and disappointment. Understanding this aspect of her character is crucial if you want to create a meaningful connection. Here's the thing: when a woman seems distant or hesitant, it's not always because she's disinterested. More often, it's her way of protecting herself from being hurt. This guarded nature isn't a game, it's survival. Women aren't quick to let just anyone into their emotional world. They need to know that the person they're trusting is worth it. Imagine this. You've just started dating someone, and she seems hesitant to share details about her past. Instead of pushing her to open up, you take your time, showing her through your actions that you're patient and trustworthy. Over time, she begins to share more, not because you pressured her, but because you created a safe space for her vulnerability. Why is this important? Because too many men mistake a woman's hesitation for disinterest or see her guarded nature as a challenge to conquer. This approach often backfires, leaving her feeling misunderstood and less likely to open up. What she's really looking for is consistency. Someone who will stay even when things get tough. Here's a common mistake. Some men try to rush the process. They push for immediate openness or demand emotional intimacy on their timeline. This doesn't work. Vulnerability is something she offers gradually as she begins to trust you more deeply. If you can't handle her pace, you're not ready for her trust. But let's be honest, this isn't always easy. When someone guards their emotions, it can feel frustrating or confusing. You might wonder if she's even interested in you. That's why patience and observation are key. Pay attention to the small moments when she lets her guard down. A casual story about her childhood, a subtle mention of her fears or dreams. These are her ways of testing the waters, seeing if you'll respect what she shares. For example, imagine she mentions feeling overwhelmed by her responsibilities, but quickly brushes it off with a laugh. Instead of ignoring it, you could say, "That sounds like a lot to handle. How do you manage to keep it all together?" This small acknowledgement shows her that you're paying attention and genuinely care about her feelings. The truth is, her guarded vulnerability isn't just her weakness, it's also her strength. It's a reflection of her resilience and her ability to protect herself. How you respond to it says more about you than it does about her. Are you patient enough to earn her trust? Are you consistent enough to show her that she can rely on you? Think of her vulnerability as a mirror. If you approach it with entitlement or impatience, It reflects your inability to handle emotional depth. But if you meet it with understanding and support, it reveals a connection that's deeper and more meaningful than surface-level attraction. As you navigate this dynamic, remember, vulnerability isn't something you demand, it's something you earn. When you approach her with genuine care and respect, you'll unlock a side of her that few get to see. And when that happens, the bond you build will be far stronger than anything forced or rushed. Now, let's move on to the next insight. The tug-of-war between her need for stability and her craving for excitement, and why mastering this balance is essential for any high-value man. Number 5. Her desire for stability battles her craving for excitement. Women live in a constant tug-of-war between two opposing desires, the need for stability and the craving for excitement. These two needs are fundamental yet often contradictory, creating one of the most intriguing and challenging dynamics in relationships. Understanding and mastering this balance can set you apart as the kind of man she doesn't just want, but needs. Let's break it down. Stability provides her with a sense of security. It's about knowing that you're reliable, dependable, and someone she can count on during tough times. On the other hand, excitement feeds her sense of curiosity and adventure. It's the spark that keeps her feeling alive and reminds her of the unpredictable joys of life. Here's where many men go wrong. They lean too heavily on one side. Some pride themselves on being the safe choice, offering reliability but becoming predictable to the point of boredom. Others swing to the opposite extreme, bringing passion and thrill but failing to provide the consistency she craves. Imagine this scenario. You've been in a relationship for a while and things have settled into a comfortable routine. While she appreciates the stability, she starts to feel restless, yearning for something unexpected. You notice this but dismiss it, thinking, isn't stability what she wanted? But here's the truth. She doesn't want to choose between stability and excitement. She wants both, and when one is missing, the balance feels off. So how do you master this delicate balance? It starts with recognizing that stability and excitement aren't opposites, they're complementary. You can provide her with a solid foundation while still keeping the spark alive. For example, let's say you've had a routine week of work and home life. Instead of sticking to the usual weekend plans, surprise her with something spontaneous, a last-minute road trip, tickets to a concert, or even just a thoughtfully planned date night. These small gestures of spontaneity show her that you're not just her anchor, but also her source of adventure. On the flip side, if you're naturally the thrill-seeker type who loves unpredictability, remember that too much excitement without stability can make her feel insecure. If she can't rely on you to be there when she needs you, the relationship will feel unsteady, no matter how exciting it is. Here's an actionable approach. Combine consistency with creativity. Be the man who sticks to his word, shows up on time, and keeps his promises. At the same time, inject moments of excitement into your routine. For instance, after a predictable week, surprise her with breakfast in bed or a handwritten note tucked into her bag. These small but thoughtful gestures create a balance that satisfies both sides of her emotional needs. Why is this balance so important? Because it reflects your ability to adapt and understand her complexity. Women don't want a perfect man. They want someone who's willing to meet them where they are and grow alongside them. When you show her that you can provide both stability and excitement, you become the man she feels deeply connected to, a rare combination that most men overlook. Think about your own relationships. Have you ever leaned too far toward one side? Maybe you became too predictable, or perhaps you focused too much on excitement and neglected the foundation. Reflect on those moments and how you could have balanced things differently. By mastering this dynamic, you're not just improving your relationship, you're setting yourself apart as the kind of man who truly understands what women need. And that's not just attractive, it's unforgettable. Number 6, the conflict between expectations and reality. Women often carry high expectations in relationships, not because they're unrealistic, but because they're deeply tied to their emotional desires and hopes. These expectations, however, often clash with reality, leading to disappointment, frustration, and even doubts about the relationship. Understanding this conflict is crucial if you want to build a connection that thrives on empathy and understanding. Let's start with a scenario. She's had a long day and hopes you'll notice her exhaustion without her saying a word. But instead, you come home preoccupied with your own thoughts, unaware of her unspoken need for support. She becomes frustrated, and you're left confused, wondering what you did wrong. The problem isn't that you didn't care. It's that her expectation wasn't communicated clearly, creating a gap between what she hoped for and what actually happened. This dynamic happens more often than you think. Women sometimes expect their partners to instinctively know what they need, but when reality doesn't align with those expectations, it can create tension. The truth is, it's not about mind reading. It's about communication and awareness. So how can you navigate this? Start by acknowledging that expectations exist, even if they're unspoken. The key is to bridge the gap between her hopes and the reality you can deliver. This requires proactive communication and a willingness to ask questions, even when it feels unnecessary. For instance, if she seems upset but hasn't said anything, instead of assuming everything is fine, you might say, "I notice you're quieter than usual. Is something on your mind?" This shows that you're paying attention and care enough to address her emotions directly. Even if her response is brief, the fact that you noticed makes a difference. Another common scenario. She envisions a perfect date night, but something goes wrong. A late reservation, a change in plans, or an unexpected hiccup. Instead of letting the moment spiral into frustration, acknowledge the gap between expectation and reality. You could say, "I know this didn't go as planned, but let's make the most of it. What can we do to turn this around?" This approach shifts the focus from what went wrong to how you can still enjoy the moment together. Understanding this conflict also means being patient when her expectations seem unrealistic. It's not about dismissing her desires, but helping her see that perfection isn't always possible. For example, if she expects every disagreement to end in perfect harmony, you might gently remind her, "We don't always have to agree on everything to still respect and love each other." This helps set realistic expectations while reinforcing the strength of your bond. Here's the challenge. Balancing her expectations with reality isn't about meeting every demand. It's about showing effort and care. When she sees that you're genuinely trying, even if things don't go perfectly, it builds trust and deepens the connection. But don't forget, this isn't a one-way street. You have expectations too. And part of a healthy relationship is communicating those openly. By sharing your own hopes and listening to hers, you create a dynamic where both partners feel seen, heard, and valued. Now, reflect for a moment. Have you ever experienced tension in your relationships because expectations weren't met? If so, think about how communication could have shifted the outcome. Could you have asked more questions? Could you have shared your own perspective more openly? These small changes can make a significant impact. Mastering the balance between her expectations and reality is about meeting her halfway. When you do this, you become the kind of man who not only understands her, but also supports her in navigating the complexities of life. Next, let's explore the final insight, her fear of losing emotional control, and how recognizing this vulnerability can strengthen your connection even further. Number 7, the fear of losing emotional control. Women often navigate a delicate balance when it comes to their emotions. While they may appear composed and in control, many harbor a fear of losing that control. This isn't about being overly emotional or dramatic, as stereotypes suggest. It's about the vulnerability that comes with expressing emotions deeply. For a woman, showing too much emotion can feel like exposing a part of herself that she spent years protecting. Imagine this. She's had a difficult day and feels overwhelmed. But instead of breaking down or sharing how she feels, she puts on a brave face. Maybe she says, "I'm fine," even when it's clear she's not. This isn't dishonesty, it's self-protection. She's weighing whether it's safe to let her emotions show or whether doing so might lead to judgment, dismissal, or even rejection. Here's where most men miss the mark. They interpret her "I'm fine" at face value, thinking she doesn't want to talk or that there's nothing wrong. But beneath those words lies a deeper need. She wants to feel safe enough to let her guard down. The challenge is creating an environment where she feels comfortable doing so. How can you do this? Start by showing her that her emotions, no matter how big or small, are valid. If she's visibly upset but says she's fine, you might respond with, "I'm here if you want to talk about it." This simple statement communicates two powerful messages. First, that you notice and care, and second, that you're not going to pressure her into sharing before she's ready. Here's a real-life example. She's venting about a frustrating situation at work, and as she talks, her emotions escalate. Instead of trying to calm her down or offering quick solutions, you stay present. You say something like, "That sounds incredibly stressful. It makes sense that you'd feel this way." By acknowledging her feelings without trying to fix them, you're giving her the space to process her emotions without fear of being judged. The fear of losing emotional control often stems from past experiences. Maybe she's been told she's too emotional or has had her feelings dismissed in previous relationships. These experiences create a subconscious barrier, making her wary of being fully open. When you demonstrate patience and understanding, you help dismantle that barrier over time. But there's another layer to consider. Women aren't just afraid of losing control in front of others, they're also afraid of how it might affect their own sense of self. For some, emotions can feel overwhelming, like a wave that threatens to pull them under. Your role isn't to stop the wave, but to be the steady presence she can hold on to until it passes. Now, let's address a common misconception. Being the steady presence doesn't mean suppressing your own emotions or becoming a stoic robot. It's about being grounded in moments of intensity. When she sees that you can remain calm and supportive, even when things get emotionally charged, it builds trust. She feels safe knowing you won't add to the chaos, but will instead help her navigate it. Here's something to think about. Have you ever found yourself frustrated when a woman's emotions felt overwhelming? If so, consider how shifting your mindset might change the dynamic. Instead of seeing her emotions as a problem to solve, view them as a bridge to deeper understanding. Ask yourself, how can I support her in this moment rather than trying to fix it? When you embrace her emotional side with patience and empathy, you become a source of stability she can rely on. Over time, this not only strengthens your connection, but also helps her feel more confident in expressing herself fully. Conclusion. We've covered a lot in this journey. 7 insights into the emotional dynamics that most men overlook. From understanding her need for emotional validation to navigating her fear of losing control. Each of these insights is a key to building a stronger, more meaningful connection. But let's take a moment to reflect on the bigger picture. Understanding these flaws isn't about pointing out weaknesses or finding ways to manipulate. It's about recognizing the complexities that make her human, just like you. Relationships thrive when both partners feel seen, valued, and supported. By applying what you've learned here, you're not just improving your relationship with her, you're also growing as a high-value man. Here's the truth. The world is full of men chasing short-term validation and surface-level attraction. But you're not like them. You're here because you value depth, connection, and the kind of relationship that stands the test of time. And that starts with understanding. Think about it. When you validate her emotions, you show her that she's not alone in her experiences. When you balance confidence with respect, you create an environment where she feels safe and appreciated. When you embrace her complexities, her desire for stability, her need for excitement, her guarded vulnerability, you demonstrate that you're the man who can handle the depth of who she truly is. Let's get practical. You don't have to be perfect to apply these lessons. Start small. The next time she shares something, listen without interrupting or jumping to solutions. When she hesitates to open up, remind her with your actions that you're patient and consistent. And when conflicts arise, focus on understanding her perspective, instead of trying to win the argument. The real magic of these insights lies in how they transform your approach to relationships. They teach you to navigate challenges with empathy, communicate with clarity, and build trust that goes beyond words. And the best part? This doesn't just benefit her. It elevates you as a man, shaping how you show up in every area of your life. Now let's bring this home with a challenge. Take one of these insights, just one, and put it into practice this week. Maybe it's being more present when she shares her feelings. Maybe it's surprising her with a spontaneous gesture that balances stability and excitement. Whatever it is, take action. Growth doesn't happen by chance. It happens through effort and intention. Finally, let me leave you with this. Women don't just want love. They want to feel understood, respected, and safe. If you're not giving her that, someone else might. So let that sink in. If you're ready to take your relationships to the next level, type "I'm a high-value man" below. Let this be your commitment to growth, not just for her, but for yourself. Remember, the greatest relationships are built on understanding, and that starts with you. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay confident, stay empathetic, and stay high value. See you next time.